Okay there. This is Bill Mork with Quorum again. Thanks for signing up today and joining the meeting. We were doing a little Halloween theme talking about spookiness of protecting VMware and kind of just demystifying some challenges that we commonly hear in the market, such as protecting a server that has a lot of data. It seems like oftentimes in the environment that like about 30% of the servers have 70% of the data. So how do we manage those servers with so much data or a lot of daily change? Other clients of ours have a really large VMware footprint, and some of the traditional backup tools, have limitations with those. So, just how do we help our clients manage VMware at scale? There's some other things here that we had listed about being able to have more flexibility with how you recover, whether that be to production equipment or maybe to a failover appliance or maybe in a private cloud or a DR location. And then just getting rid of downtime. How do we protect from or recover from ransomware? And just making things as simple and easy as possible seems to be the overlying theme with VMware or physical or other environments. So as I said earlier, if you have any other topics or challenges that you are currently facing with protecting your VMware environment and like us to discuss it, you can just chat it into the window on the right, and I'd be happy to add that to our presentation. To kick things off, I'm going to share a couple of slides here, and I'm going to pass it over to Gabriel, who's our VP of Products. You've probably heard from him if you've joined a webinar before. Just kind of basic things I wanted to cover were, what's Quorum usually helpful for with our clients? What are the main reasons that people pick Quorum over the 100 other backup solutions out there? And resounding is usually the ease of use. So that's a one-click restore if we're having an outage. But on a day-to-day, that means that it's a low system to manage, especially if we have a large VMware environment with many servers. Really kind of want the backups to run their own, and we have to focus on DR testing and if and when we have an outage to do the recover. Security remains a big focus of many teams, not only protecting from ransomware, but having a fail-safe or ransomware recovery plan. So there's some specific capabilities with VMware that allows additional flexibility that we can talk to about this point. And then the completeness of solution, while today we'll focus on VMware environments, Quorum's technology can be applied to other virtualization platforms, such as Hyper-V or Citrix. We also work with physical servers, or if you have any cloud-hosted applications such as Office 365 or G Suite or anything like that. And then furthermore, there's some capabilities here. We talk on the top, shows an image just showing whether your servers are in a public cloud or on-premise. We're able to protect those VMware servers, does not matter to Quorum. And we're able to provide instant recovery, and that could be locally on an appliance or at your DR location or in the cloud. We can even return servers back to production equipment if that makes sense. And then some things you might assume like file level recovery, bare metal restore, things included in a traditional backup tool. Reporting the analytics is always nice. And then we have quite a few clients in the healthcare, finance, and legal who have long-term retention requirements. So there's some really cool stuff that Quorum does there as well. It builds right on the backups to create the archives, which makes it really efficient for storing data long-term, even for maybe 7 years or so. Also, since it's built right off the backup, those images are bootable. So if you ever need to recover from a couple years ago, you can boot up one of these archive images. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen and go ahead and hand it over to Gabe. We've kind of specifically been talking about, or generally talking about Quorum's capabilities and what it provides. Gabe, if you could kind of turn that lens into maybe more of a VIP focused, our VMware integrated protection from VMware, and talk about those special capabilities and maybe even show the guys a couple of recovery processes, that'd be great.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. I was mid setting up my screen and I couldn't turn on my mic at the same time, so had to finish one process before starting the next. Okay, so um, thanks, Bill, for the introduction. My name's Gabriel. I'm the VP of Product and Technical Operations here at Quorum. I've been here forever. And so we're really excited about our new offering with VIP, and we're going to kind of walk through what Quorum can offer to make this whole disaster recovery process a little less scary and easier to overcome. So what you're seeing right here is our general interface, um, and what you'll see is the servers that we have are held by cards, and it's very red light, green light driven. So green is good, red is bad. As you can see in this view, everything's up and running, backing up normally. All the servers in production are up, so everything's green. There's nothing really to have. But if something were to happen wrong, let's say this landing machine, the PN or the production node went down, it would turn red and this card would come to the top left corner. So anything that's happening bad floats up to the top so that you can manage. So even if you have hundreds of machines you're managing, this interface makes it easy to address any concerns you might have of what's going on, how to get it back up and functioning, and get it going. Now, when Quorum was originally designed, it was designed with a agent-based attitude so that we didn't care if you were virtual or physical or on VMware or Hyper-V or Zen Server or whatever virtual platform. We designed the product to be very agnostic to your environment so that even if you changed over time, we could adjust. But in doing that, everything became probably a little more complicated than it needed to be for VMware environments. You had to do bare metal recovery back to the machines and so forth because you were running on an agent. You weren't trusting VMware to do things that VMware is really good at, like storage vMotion and managing your VMs. And so what we did at this next release is we made VM integration part of the release. So what we do now is we can back up not only agent-based, which will work on anything, we can also back up directly to a VMware host and pull those VMs down directly. Our appliances actually run on Zen server, so we then take those VMDKs that we're pulling and we make a thin provision of them and modify them to make them also bootable on the appliance. So you have not only the capability of recovering directly back to your VMware host, which I'll show you here in a second, but you can also recover to the appliances if your hosts were down or if you lost your storage platform or compute or whatever. And then we take all that data that we have on the local appliances and we can replicate that to the cloud and do the same thing there. So that's what I'm going to kind of walk through with you a little bit today. So I'm going to show you kind of how the VIP pieces of this work. I'm going to change to the legacy interface for a second, just because, as I said, I've been here for a long time and I'm a little more comfortable in this interface. So these are our machines that are backing up with VIP. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to pick one of them and we're going to recover it without booting it with VIP so you can see exactly what we can do. So I can bring it up on the appliance in the test network or in the production network. Now, if I tried to click on production right now, because that server is online, it's actually going to come back to me and go, wait a minute, I see the server online. I'm not going to start a duplicate IP in your network. So it has some safeguards in there for that. But what we're going to do is bring it up in the test network. Now, in every appliance that we have an isolated test network, so you can actually bring up all your servers in the test network and do a full DR test without affecting production. So while that's booting, I'm going to do another recovery with the same server, and I'm going to recover with VIP. Now, what this is going to do is it's actually going to recover to, let's see, so let me change screens here real quick so you can see. That's not going to work. Sorry, I typed the password in wrong. There we go. So this is the production VMware server. And you can see in here, sorry, this is the failover VM1 server. Here's the production VMware server. And here's all my servers in here, and they're all up and they're all doing their thing. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this domain controller and I'm going to recover it to ESX02. So I'm going to recover it to the empty box. So you can see that I'm actually mounting the drives and the storage from the on-queue to the VM host. And all I'm doing here is entering my my ESX password. If I were running vCenter, I could easily put in my vCenter password, username and password as well. Oops. It's going to try to power this on. I'm going to not let it power on, just so you know. So it's going to mount the disks over to ESX. And you're going to see the storage here is going to change from 1, which is the default store. It's going to add another storage mounted NFS mount to this server, and it's going to create the VM, and it's going to add the VM. And it's going to do all of this without us really having to do much of anything else. Just have to turn it off when I have to time it, so I turn it off. I don't have duplicates on my network, but there we go. Okay, sorry, I didn't want to get a duplicate IP on my network. So I took that machine, I've mounted it, created a VM, and I can recover it. Now, once I have it up and running, I can then use storage vMotion to move that storage back to my production platform. So in a matter of a few seconds, I've recovered that whole machine back into production. I've also recovered it into the test network, as we could see back here from this screen. Scroll down, hit OK. You can see I've recovered it to the test network. I can click on the console. Now, again, this test network is isolated from your production. So I have this machine up in multiple locations on multiple platforms with multiple storage backends, and I'm not affecting my production at all. So I can recover in lots of ways. I can do full DR testing. I can do all kinds of options with just a couple of clicks, and I don't affect my production environment. So that's how easy VMware VIP recovery is for Quorum to do and provide to our customers. And then we take all of this data and we can replicate it to our cloud or to a second set of appliances and give you full disaster recovery capabilities as well. Any questions so far? If you have any questions, guys, if you could throw it into the questions section, we can see that and we can answer it from there.
And so far that I see.
Okay. And you can see since I've changed, just to give you an idea of why it's showing getting devices ready, since I've basically changed the underpinning of what the hypervisor is, it has all new drivers, all new stuff in it. So it's booting naturally on the new interface. So it sees a new network card, it sees a new chipset, all that kind of stuff for the OS. So it takes it a second to say, hey, I'm getting new devices and all that, and then it will come up and start. So that's how that works. And then if we look over, oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to jump in with a question that I have, because it seems like a lot of prospects that I talk to have this is a common issue that comes up, is if someone has a server with maybe one file server and that's where all of their data resides. Sometimes people have an issue backing that up just with the backup running too long or failing. Does VIP help with that, or how does it help with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It does help with that a lot. If that file server is a virtual machine, because we're doing an image-based backup on VIP, it's much faster than us reading through the file system to find what files changed as we do with the agent-based. So while the agent-based is more agnostic and can work in any environment and is very stable, at doing its job, it can be slower because of that. So the image-based backup that we do through VMware is much faster. And in some cases in our testing, we were like 900% faster for some large servers. So it's really an easier way to get this all done. Good question. So in the Quorum world, you can see I'm bouncing between two interfaces. Each on queue, so each on queue device that manages itself are in that other screen that I was in. But if I come over to this screen, I can have multiple on queues. I could have cloud instances, all managed from a single pane of glass to see all that's going on. And that gives me all the analytics and stuff to do that. And while I've spent a lot of time today really discussing VIP and how it works, I want to make sure everyone is still aware that Quorum also has all of the file level recovery capabilities that you need from both Linux and Windows machines. So if you needed to, just get the accounting spreadsheet that Bob deleted last week, you just have to go into recovery, and you can get that specifically from any of the servers that had it before from a backup. And we have both Windows share recovery, meaning I can literally mount one of the shares as a drive letter and drag and drop files, and we have normal file level recovery that would give me for multiple files, drives, and so forth. So a lot of flexibility there, but still super easy to use.
And one question was, I'd like to know how to restore a domain controller. Does the domain controller send updates to other DCs?
Domain controllers are a weird beast. So restoring a domain controller is restored just like any other server. But if you're bringing up the domain controller in an isolated environment, meaning it can't see any of the other domain controllers, there is a registry change that we can make so that it'll say, hey, I'm going to trust myself to own the domain and be able to start the domain services. Otherwise, it's going to have to trust one of the other domain controllers on the network. So there is just in the test environment, you have to be aware of that. But mostly in production, it'll start just like it always has. I hope that made sense. We have a lot of customers that will back up multiple domain controllers, but in their test, they'll only test one of them. And they'll wonder why the domain services didn't start. Well, if the domain controllers can't see each other, but they're expecting to, they don't trust themselves to own the domain. They say, I don't know if I should run, so I'm just not going to run, and I'm going to let somebody tell me. Whereas you can make a registry change that's pretty simple to make, and it'll say, if I don't see anybody else, trust myself, and it'll start. Good question. Well, that's really all that I had to go through with you guys today. If you have any other questions, or if you want to reach out to Bill or any of your resellers or providers, please feel free. Otherwise, Bill, I'll hand this back over to you.
You got one more question. This actually came from a conversation I had yesterday. Someone was asking, hey, I'm getting ready to deploy all new equipment. Can Quorum help with the migration of that?
Sure, it can. Because we're agent-based, we can actually recover to any platform, be it virtual or physical. So if you're backed up with the Quorum product and you're on a physical machine and you want to recover into a virtual environment, you can do that. Or if you're virtual and you want to move it to a physical appliance, you can do that. Our agnostic approach means we're really flexible in how we can recover into new environments.
That's great. Thank you.
All right.
Well, thanks for everybody for joining today. I got some issues, or I got some messages here saying one person was unable to hear or see us. So I'm just going to reach out to everybody afterwards and confirm that you're able to see the presentation. Or able to log in successfully. If you were, that's great. But if you weren't and you'd like to have some specific questions answered or meet up with us, I'd be happy to arrange that. So sorry if you had any technical difficulties signing in there. Hopefully it was an isolated issue. If you have any follow-up questions that you think of related to VMware, protecting it, or if you have other servers that you're interested in learning more about Quorum's backup and disaster recovery, please reach out. I'll be sending a follow-up thank you email to everyone. I'm always happy to get on a phone to talk about Quorum or to learn more about your environment, see how we might be able to help. Hope everyone had a great Halloween. Thanks again for joining. Thanks, Gabriel, for leading us through the presentation. Everyone have a great week.